I want you to understand something before I tell you this story. When your own mother looks at you with the kind of disgust usually reserved for roadkill, when your father can't meet your eyes because the sight of you makes him ashamed, when you've spent 23 years being told in 1,000 different ways that you are not enough, never enough, will never be enough, you learn to make yourself small. Not physically small. God knows that was impossible. At nearly 300 pounds, I took up space whether I wanted to or not. No, I mean the other kind of small. The kind where you learn to apologize for existing. Where you hold your breath when you pass people in hallways so they don't have to acknowledge the fat girl taking up too much room. Where you train yourself to want nothing, expect nothing, be nothing, because nothing is all you deserve. My name is Elena Moretti, and the day I turned 23, I learned I wasn't even worth keeping. It started with shouting. I was in my bedroom, where I always was, where I spent most of my life hiding from the world and the world's disgust, when I heard my father's voice screaming downstairs. Not angry screaming, terrified screaming, the kind that makes your blood turn to ice. Then my mother shrieking, "You did what? You stupid, stupid man!" A crash, glass breaking. And then a voice I didn't recognize, low and cold and somehow worse than the screaming. "Mrs. Moretti, please, sit down. We're all going to have a civilized conversation." I should have stayed in my room, should have locked the door, hidden under the bed, pretended I didn't exist like I always did. But something about that voice, the calm, controlled menace in it, pulled me to my door. I cracked it open, just enough to hear. $250,000, the cold voice was saying. Skimmed over 3 years. Did you really think we wouldn't notice, Antonio? Please. My father, begging now. I'd never heard my father beg. I'll pay it back. With interest. Whatever you want. Just give me time. Time? A laugh, devoid of humor. You've had 3 years of time. Time to steal from my family. Time to live well on money that wasn't yours. Your time is up. We have nothing. My mother's voice, desperate and shrill. Look at this place. Does this look like we have $250,000? We're barely holding on. Then perhaps you shouldn't have spent stolen money quite so freely. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then my mother, in a voice I'll never forget. What about Elena? My heart stopped. What about her? The cold voice, curious now. Our daughter. She's young, strong. She can work. She can... A pause, and I could picture my mother's face, that calculating expression she got when she was trying to solve a problem. Like I was a math equation. She can be collateral. Payment. Whatever you need. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what I was hearing. My mother. My own mother. Offering me up like, "You want to give me your daughter?" The voice sounded almost amused. As what, exactly? As insurance. Against the debt. She'll work for you? Serve your household? Do whatever you need? My mother's words came faster now, desperate like she was selling a used car. She's a hard worker. She never complains. She's educated. She's your child. The cold voice had an edge now. And you're selling her. We're not selling. My father jumped in quickly. We're offering her as guarantee of our loyalty, of our commitment to repaying what we owe, by giving me a slave. No, not a slave. An employee. My father floundered. They want you downstairs. I spun around. My mother stood in my doorway, her face pale, her eyes not quite meeting mine. How long had she been there? Why? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Weaker. Because your father made mistakes. She still wouldn't look at me, just stared at a point past my shoulder. And now we all have to pay for them. What kind of mistakes? The kind that get people killed. Finally, she looked at me, and what I saw in her face made me want to vomit. Not love, not maternal protection, not even sympathy. just cold, calculated relief. Get dressed. Something nice. Or at least. Her eyes traveled over my body, my too large body in sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, and her lip curled. As nice as possible. She left without another word. I stood there, in my room that suddenly felt like a cell, and felt the first real wave of terror wash over me. They were going to give me away. My parents, the people who were supposed to protect me, love me, keep me safe, were going to hand me over to criminals like I was a piece of furniture. Because I was fat. Because I was worthless to them. Because apparently I was only good for one thing: paying their debts. My hands shook so hard I could barely zip up the dress. It was black. Of course it was black. The only color that supposedly slimmed. And it was tight. Too tight. The fabric strained across my stomach, my hips, my thighs. I looked in the mirror and saw exactly what they would see. A fat girl in a too small dress, trying and failing to be presentable. I was going to walk downstairs and they were going to look at me with disgust. They were going to laugh, maybe, or be angry that this was what my parents were offering. They'd probably refuse. Probably hurt my father for insulting them with someone like me. And then they'd kill us all. Because that's what criminals did, right? When you couldn't pay, when you didn't have anything valuable to offer, they killed you. I was going to die. Today. In this dress. Without ever having lived. The thought made me want to curl up on the floor and scream. But I couldn't. Because if I didn't go down there, if I didn't do this, my parents would suffer. And despite everything, despite their disgust, their disappointment, their complete failure to ever love me the way I needed, they were still my parents. So I went downstairs. Every step felt like walking to my execution. The first thing I saw was the men. 3 of them, dressed in expensive suits that probably cost more than everything in our house combined. They stood in my father's study like they owned it, which, I supposed, they probably did now. My father sat behind his desk, looking small and old and terrified. My mother stood by the window, her arms wrapped around herself, not looking at anyone. And then he turned around. I'd been expecting a monster, someone ugly, scarred, with dead eyes and a cruel mouth. Someone whose face would match the coldness of that voice I'd heard. Dante Russo was beautiful, and somehow that made it so much worse. He was tall, over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and the kind of lean muscle that came from actual violence, not gym memberships. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble by some Renaissance master. Strong jaw, straight nose, cheekbones sharp enough to cut. And eyes. God, his eyes were black. Not brown. Black. Like staring into an abyss. Those eyes locked onto me the second I entered, and I felt my skin crawl. This beautiful, deadly man was going to own me. "This is your daughter?" His voice, that cold voice from before, slid over me like ice water. Yes. My father couldn't quite keep the shame out of his tone, like I was something embarrassing he had to show. "Elena. She's 23. I can see what she is." Dante's eyes traveled over me slowly, and I wanted to disappear. Wanted to melt into the floor. Wanted to be anywhere but here, being assessed like livestock by this terrifying, beautiful man. His expression didn't change, didn't show disgust, but didn't show approval either. Just calculation. Like he was trying to figure out what use I could possibly be. "Elena," he said my name like he was testing it. "Do you know why you're here?" My mouth was so dry I could barely speak. "My father. He owes you money. $250,000. He moved closer, and everything in me screamed to run. Money he stole from my family. Money he needs to pay back. Do you understand the consequences of stealing from the Russo family? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Tell me. He was right in front of me now, and I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. What do you think happens to thieves? They die. Usually. Yes. A pause. Is that what you think should happen to your father? What kind of question was that? No, he stole from me, from my family. He lived well on our money while we went without. Justice would say he pays with his life. Those black eyes held mine, unblinking. Do you think that's unfair? Yes, I whispered. Why? Because my voice shook. Because he's my father. Because he made a mistake. Because killing him won't get your money back. But it sends a message. He circled me slowly, and I felt like prey being stalked. It tells everyone else who might think about stealing from me what the consequences are. It maintains order, respect, fear. He stopped in front of me again. Do you understand the world I come from, Elena? No. Good. Then let me educate you. He gestured to one of his men, a scarred, brutal-looking man who immediately pulled up his sleeve. Scars, burns, tattoos that I recognized from crime documentaries. Russian prison tattoos. This is Marco, Dante said calmly. Marco has killed 17 men, that we know of. Marco has done things to people that would make you vomit if I described them. He looked at me. Would you like me to describe them? No, I managed. Smart girl. He nodded to Marco, who lowered his sleeve. Marco is one of my most trusted men. Loyal, efficient, brutal when necessary. And Marco answers to me. A pause. If I wanted, I could have Marco take your father into the next room and make him scream for hours before he died. Your mother, too. I could have them tortured for stealing from me. I could burn this house down with all of you in it. Do you believe me? I was shaking now. Full body tremors I couldn't control. Yes. Say it. I believe you. Good. Because I want you to understand something, Elena. I want you to understand exactly what your parents are asking when they offer you to me. They're asking me to spare their lives, to show mercy, to accept you as payment, or insurance, or whatever pretty word they want to use, instead of killing them. Do you understand? Tears were rolling down my face now. I couldn't stop them. Yes. So here's what's going to happen. Dante's voice was still calm, still cold, still absolutely terrifying. I'm going to take you. You're going to live where I say, work where I say, do what I say. You're going to become my responsibility, my property, mine. And if your father ever thinks about stealing from me again, if he misses a single payment on the debt he still owes me, if he steps out of line in any way, he leaned close, his breath against my ear. I'll send you back to him piece by piece. Understood? I couldn't speak, could barely breathe, just nodded. I need to hear you say it. I understand. My voice broke. Good girl. He straightened, turning to my parents. We're done here. Elena, get your things. You have 5 minutes. 5 minutes to pack up my entire life. 5 minutes before I became property. I threw clothes into a duffel bag with shaking hands, barely seeing what I grabbed. Underwear, sweatpants, some t-shirts, a few books because I couldn't imagine a life without books, even if that life was about to become a nightmare. My mother appeared in the doorway. Elena, don't. I didn't look at her. Couldn't. Don't say anything. We didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. I spun on her, rage suddenly burning, through the fear. You could have said no. You could have found another way. You could have... My voice cracked. You could have protected me. That's what parents are supposed to do. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. I zipped the bag with shaking hands. I understand that you're giving me to a criminal to save your own skins. I understand that you're getting rid of the fat daughter you've been ashamed of for 23 years. I understand that I'm worth less to you than a debt. My mother's face went pale. That's not... Isn't it? I laughed, but it came out strangled. You think I haven't seen the way you look at me? The way Dad pretends I don't exist? You're relieved. Both of you. Finally, an excuse to get rid of the embarrassment. Elena, I hope the debt was worth it. I hope you sleep well tonight, knowing you sold your daughter. I pushed past her, bag in hand, and didn't look back. The SUV was black and sleek, and screamed money. I was shoved into the back seat between two of Dante's men, Marco on one side, another younger, pretty one on the other. Dante sat across from me, his dark eyes watching me like a scientist observing an experiment. The car started moving, and I realized with a jolt of terror that I was leaving. Actually leaving. Everything I'd ever known, as awful as it was disappearing behind me. I was going somewhere I didn't know, with people who terrified me, to do things I couldn't imagine, and there was nothing I could do about it. The panic hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe. The car was too small, too hot, too full of dangerous men. My chest felt tight. My vision was going dark at the edges. My hands were numb. Elena, Dante's voice sharp. Look at me. I couldn't focus. Couldn't. Look at me. His command cut through the panic. I forced my eyes to his. Breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Do it. I tried. Gasped. Tried again. That's it. Again. Focus on my voice. You're having a panic attack. It will pass. Breathe with me. He breathed, exaggerated and slow, and I found myself matching him. In, out, in, out. Slowly, the edges of my vision cleared. The tightness in my chest eased. Better? He asked. I nodded, humiliated. Of course I'd have a breakdown in front of him. Of course. It's a normal reaction, Dante said, his voice less cold now. Almost gentle. You've just had your entire life upended. Most people would panic. I'm not most people. It came out bitter. Most people aren't fat and worthless and sold by their parents. Stop. I looked up, startled. His expression was hard. I don't know what your parents told you, what they made you believe about yourself. But let me be clear about something. You're not worthless. You're not a burden. And you're definitely not sold. Your father is repaying a debt. You are insurance that he continues to do so. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Because sold suggests you have no value beyond the transaction. Insurance suggests you're valuable enough that losing you would matter. His eyes held mine. Do you understand the distinction? I didn't. Not really. But I nodded anyway. Good. He leaned back, something in his posture easing. We have a 30-minute drive. I suggest you use it to calm down and prepare yourself. Prepare myself for what? For your new life. The house, no, the estate, that loomed up before us looked like something from a movie. Massive stone walls, iron gates that looked like they belonged on a fortress. Guards everywhere, all armed, all watching our approach with trained eyes. This wasn't a home. This was a prison. My panic started creeping back. The car pulled through the gates and up a long driveway to a mansion that was literally the biggest building I'd ever seen in person. It was beautiful. Old Italian architecture, gardens, fountains. But beauty didn't make it less terrifying. Welcome to the Russo Palazzo, Dante said as the car stopped. This is your home now. Home. As if. Marco opened my door and I climbed out on shaky legs, clutching my pathetic duffel bag like a shield. Dante appeared at my side, not touching me but close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Mrs. Chen will show you to your quarters, he said. Get settled. Dinner is at 8. You'll join me. I started, then stopped. What was the point? I didn't have choices anymore. A small, elderly Asian woman appeared, her face kind but her eyes sharp. This had to be Mrs. Chen. Miss Elena, she said with a slight bow. Please, follow me. I followed her into the palazzo, through marble hallways and past rooms that were bigger than my entire house, up a grand staircase that belonged in a fairy tale. Every step took me further from anything I knew, deeper into this beautiful nightmare. "This is your room," Mrs. Chen said, opening a door. I stepped inside and stopped. The room was... It was beautiful. More than beautiful. Massive, with cream and gold decorations, French doors opening onto a balcony, furniture that looked like it came from a magazine. There was a sitting area, a desk, a bed that could fit 4 people, and through another door I could see a bathroom with marble and gold and... "This can't be for me," I said automatically. "There's been a mistake." "No mistake." Mrs. Chen moved to the closet, opening it. "Mr. Russo was very specific. You were to have the rose room." I noticed then. The roses. Subtle in the wallpaper, woven into the fabrics. Real ones in a crystal vase on the dresser. It was like someone had designed this room specifically for someone named Elena Rose, but that was impossible. He couldn't have known my middle name. Could he? "I don't understand," I whispered. "Why would he give me this? I'm just..." "You are a guest in this house," Mrs. Chen said firmly, "and guests are treated with respect. Now, Mr. Russo has arranged for appropriate clothing to be delivered. I'll have it brought up. Rest. You've had a difficult day." She left, and I was alone in the most beautiful room I'd ever seen, and all I could think was, why is he being nice to me? What does he want? I sat on the edge of that massive bed and cried. Not pretty crying, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for the life I'd lost, as mediocre as it was. I cried for parents who'd never loved me the way I needed. I cried for the fear that was still coursing through my veins, the terror of not knowing what came next. And I cried because that beautiful, terrifying man downstairs had looked at me, really looked at me, and hadn't shown disgust, hadn't laughed, hadn't treated me like the worthless fat girl I'd always been told I was. And somehow, that was more frightening than anything else. Because if he saw value in me, that meant he wanted something. And I had no idea what that something was. The knock came an hour later. I'd managed to stop crying, had splashed water on my puffy face, tried to make myself presentable. But I still looked like exactly what I was, a terrified girl who'd been crying. "Come in," I called, expecting Mrs. Chen. Instead, 2 impossibly polished women entered, their arms full of garment bags and shopping bags. They looked like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect bodies in perfect clothes. Everything I wasn't. "Miss Moretti." The first one, a redhead, gave me a bright smile. "I'm Sophia from Blanc Boutique. Mr. Russo commissioned a complete wardrobe for you." I stared at her. "He did what?" "He called us this morning with your measurements and asked us to select pieces that would be comfortable, elegant, and appropriate for your new position." This morning, before he'd even come to collect me, he'd been ordering me clothes. "How did he get my measurements?" I asked, my voice small. Sophia's smile didn't waver. "Mr. Russo is very observant. Now, we have casual wear, formal wear, sleepwear." She started unpacking, pulling out clothes in beautiful fabrics and rich colors, all in my size, not stretched out, not too small, not the black sacks I usually wore, real clothes. "For tonight's dinner," Sophia continued, holding up a dress. "We selected this. Midnight blue wrap dress. The color will bring out your eyes and the cut is very flattering." Flattering. As if anything could flatter a body like mine. "I can't wear that," I said automatically. "Why not?" "Because I gestured at myself. "Look at me. I can't pull off something like that." Sophia tilted her head, studying me. "Miss Moretti, may I be honest with you?" I nodded. "Mr. Russo is extremely particular about his household. Everything is chosen carefully: furniture, art, staff, guests. If he selected this dress for you, it's because he knows it will look beautiful on you. She held it out. Trust him. Trust yourself. Easy for her to say, with her perfect size 2 body. But I took the dress anyway. After they left, after they'd filled my closet with more clothes than I'd owned in my entire life, I stood in front of the full-length mirror and forced myself to look. Really look. At my round face with its double chin and full cheeks, at my thick arms and broad shoulders, at my large breasts and stomach that no amount of shapewear could disguise, at my wide hips and thick thighs, and the way I took up so much space. This is what Dante Russo sees, I thought. This is what he's decided to own. The thought made me feel sick. But I had to wear the dress. Had to go to dinner. Had to start playing whatever role he wanted me to play in this nightmare. So I pulled on the dress and was shocked when it actually fit. The wrap style was forgiving, cinching at the smallest part of my waist and flowing over my hips. The color did bring out my eyes. With my dark hair loose and some minimal makeup, I almost looked... No, I cut off that thought before it could form. Don't get ahead of yourself, Elena. You're still fat. Still undesirable. Still everything you've always been. But maybe, just maybe, I could fake being something more for one dinner. At 7:58, I made my way downstairs, following the sound of classical music and my own thundering heartbeat. The dining room was exactly as overwhelming as the rest of the house. Huge table, crystal chandelier, paintings that probably cost more than my parents' house. And at the head of the table sat Dante Russo, looking like he'd stepped out of a different era in his dark suit and rolled-up sleeves. He stood when I entered. Actually stood up, like I was someone important, like this was a date instead of a hostage dinner. The gesture was so unexpected, so fundamentally wrong for the situation, that I stopped in the doorway. Elena. His eyes traveled over me and I braced for disgust, for dismissal, for, "You look beautiful." I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. A short, bitter bark of laughter that echoed in the vast room. His expression didn't change. Did I say something amusing? Beautiful. I shook my head. No one's ever called me beautiful before. Then everyone you've known is an idiot. He gestured to the chair at his right. Sit. Are you hungry? Was I hungry? I was starving. But years of training kicked in. Never eat too much. Never show how hungry you are. Never give anyone another reason to judge. It's a simple question, Elena. Yes or no? Yes. I admitted quietly. Good. He pressed a button and staff appeared, actual staff in uniforms, carrying dishes that smelled incredible. They served quickly and efficiently, then disappeared. Wine? Dante asked. I don't usually. He poured without waiting, then raised his glass. To new beginnings. I picked up my glass with shaking hands and took a sip. It was good. Probably expensive. Probably wasted on someone like me. Eat, Dante said, and I realized he was waiting for me. The food was incredible. Pasta in a cream sauce, perfectly cooked vegetables, fresh bread. My stomach growled embarrassingly loud, but I forced myself to eat slowly, properly, aware of his eyes on me. You can relax, he said after a moment. I'm not going to judge how you eat. Everyone judges how I eat. The words came out before I could stop them, and I immediately wanted to take them back. But Dante just set down his fork and looked at me. Who is everyone? My parents, kids at school, people at restaurants who think fat people shouldn't eat in public. People at the grocery store who look in my cart and feel entitled to comment. Random strangers who... I stopped. Why was I telling him this? I'm not them, Dante said quietly. Eat, Elena. Please. So I did. And it was the best meal I'd had in years, not because of the food, though that was incredible, but because for the first time in my life, no one was watching me with disgust. He was just watching me, present, attentive, like I mattered. It was terrifying. Tell me about yourself, Dante said when we were halfway through the meal. What do you want to know? Anything. Everything. Start with something simple. What do you like to do? I read. The answer came automatically. I have a degree in library science. I worked at the public library until... I stopped. Until your father pulled you out to hide you from me, Dante finished. I know. What do you read? Everything. Classics, fiction, mysteries, romance. I stopped again, feeling my face heat. Did I really just say romance to a mafia boss? But he just smiled. Actually smiled. Romance? Really? Don't. My defenses went up. I know it's stupid. I wasn't mocking you. I'm genuinely curious. What do you like about romance novels? No one had ever asked me that before. No one had ever cared enough to ask. I searched for words. I like the idea that someone could see past all the surface stuff and just want someone, choose them. Not because they're perfect, but because they're theirs. Something flickered across his face. And you've never had that? It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. No. Why not? Look at me, Mr. Russo. Dante, call me Dante. Look at me, Dante. I'm not exactly romance novel material. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with those unreadable dark eyes. Then he said, You're wrong. I'm really not. You are, but we'll come back to that. He took a sip of wine. Tell me about library science. What does that entail? So I told him about organizing information, creating systems, helping people find exactly what they needed, about the Dewey Decimal System and cataloging and the pure satisfaction of a well-ordered collection. And somewhere in the middle of explaining the difference between fiction and nonfiction classification, I realized I was actually enjoying myself. Talking to this dangerous, beautiful man who actually seemed interested in what I had to say. You miss it, he observed. The library. Yes. What are you reading now? The Count of Monte Cristo. Or I was. I grabbed it when I packed, but... Appropriate, Dante said with a sharp smile. A man wrongly imprisoned, plotting revenge against those who betrayed him. Have you read it? Several times. I have the original French edition in my library. He paused. Would you like to see it? I blinked. You have a library? I do. Extensive collection, mostly Italian and French classics, but a decent English section too. You're welcome to use it. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why are you being nice to me? Dante set down his glass carefully. Define nice. This. I gestured around. The room, the clothes, offering me your library, acting like I'm a guest instead of a... I struggled for the word. Instead of what? A prisoner? Property? He leaned forward. Is that what you think you are? Aren't I? No. His voice was firm. You're under my protection. That's different. How? Because protection implies care, responsibility, a duty to ensure your well-being and safety. He held my gaze. I take that duty very seriously, Elena. But why? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. I owe you the decency your parents never gave you. He said it so simply, like it was obvious. I owe you respect, comfort, basic human kindness. And despite what you may think of me, despite the violence and the business and the lifestyle, I believe in those things, especially for people under my roof. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to reconcile the cold, terrifying man who'd threatened my parents with this person sitting across from me, talking about duty and kindness. You're confused, Dante observed. Yes. That's fair. I'd be confused too. He stood, offering his hand. Come with me. Let me show you the library. Maybe that will help. I looked at his outstretched hand, strong, scarred, capable of terrible violence, and made a choice. I took it. The library was everything I'd ever dreamed of. 2 stories of floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a rolling ladder, comfortable reading chairs, a massive desk, and I gasped when I saw it, an actual fireplace with armchairs arranged in front of it. This is... I couldn't find words. 15,000 volumes, Dante said from behind me. Collected over 3 generations. My grandfather started it. My father expanded it. I've continued the tradition. He moved past me, running his fingers along the spines. Italian section here, French here, English and American here. First editions on the top shelves, reading copies below. I drifted toward the shelves like a magnet, reading titles, recognizing classics, discovering books I'd only heard of. My fingers itched to touch them, to pull them out, to... Go ahead, Dante said. Touch them. That's what they're for. I couldn't... Elena. He moved closer, and I could feel the heat of him at my back. Stop telling yourself you can't. This library is yours now too. Use it. Enjoy it. That's an order. An order. From my captor. My... protector? I still didn't know what to call him. I pulled out a book carefully, Pride and Prejudice, a beautiful leather-bound edition, and opened it to find it was a first edition, an actual first edition from 1813. This must be worth... a lot, yes, but it's still meant to be read. He took it from me gently, opening it to a random page. Listen. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. He looked up at me. Do you know what I love about this line? I shook my head. The irony. Austen wasn't saying it's true. She was saying it's what society believed, what everyone acknowledged. But the whole book is about how that truth is actually complete nonsense. He closed the book, handing it back. Sometimes what everyone believes about something, or someone, is completely wrong. The way he said it, the way he looked at me when he said it, made my chest tight. Dante, your parents made you believe you were worthless, he said quietly. Society made you believe your value was tied to your appearance. They were wrong, Elena. Completely, fundamentally wrong. You don't know that. You've known me for 6 hours. I know you packed books when you had 5 minutes to grab your entire life. I know you apologized for existing before you even entered my car. I know you're smart enough to have a degree by 23, brave enough to come here despite being terrified, and kind enough to worry about parents who sold you. He moved closer. I know enough. I couldn't breathe. He was too close, too intense, too everything. Why do you care? Because someone should. He said it simply, like it was obvious. And because I choose to. That's not a real answer. It's the only one I have right now. He stepped back, giving me space. Now, I have work to do. Feel free to stay here as long as you want. This library is always open to you. He was leaving, giving me space, treating me like a person with autonomy even though we both knew I had none. Dante? I called as he reached the door. He turned. Thank you. For everything today. The room, the clothes, this. I gestured at the library. You didn't have to. Yes, he said. I did. Then he was gone, and I was alone in paradise, and I still didn't understand anything. I spent that first night in the library too afraid to sleep. Every creak of the old house made me jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. I kept expecting someone to burst through the door, to tell me the kindness had been a test, that now the real horror would begin. But no one came. At some point, I must have dozed off in one of the armchairs, because I woke to find a blanket draped over me and morning light streaming through the windows. And standing in the doorway, watching me with an expression I couldn't read, was Dante. You slept here, he said. Not a question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Did your bed not suit you? The bed is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. I clutched the blanket. I couldn't sleep. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you're afraid. Yes. Of me. Yes. No point lying. He moved into the room and I tensed, but he just walked to the windows, looking out at the gardens. That's smart. You should be afraid. I'm a dangerous man, Elena. I've done things that would give you nightmares. I'll do more before this is over. He turned to face me. But I need you to understand something. You're not in danger from me. Not now, not ever. I protect what's mine, and you're mine now. Do you understand? You keep saying that. That I'm yours. Like property. Not like property. Like... He seemed to search for words. Like responsibility. Like someone I've sworn to protect. The distinction matters. Does it? Either way, I don't have a choice. No, he agreed. You don't. Not right now. Your father made sure of that. But I can give you choices within this situation. Starting with this one. Do you want to eat breakfast with me or alone in your room? It was such a small thing. Such a meaningless choice in the grand scheme of my captivity. But it was still a choice. With you, I heard myself say. His expression softened slightly. Good. Come on. Mrs. Chen makes the best pancakes you've ever had. The first week was hell. Not because Dante was cruel. He wasn't. Not because the house was a prison. It was actually beautiful, and I had the run of most of it. Not even because the work was hard. Helping Mrs. Chen with household tasks was easy, almost therapeutic. No, it was hell, because I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept expecting Dante to reveal his true intentions, to make demands, to hurt me, to use me the way I'd read about in crime novels, the way hostages and prisoners and people who owed debts were used. But he didn't. He ate breakfast with me every morning, asking about what I was reading, what I thought of the house, if I needed anything. He showed me around the property, the gardens, the greenhouse, the stables where he kept 3 horses. He introduced me to his staff with an edge in his voice that suggested anyone who disrespected me would regret it. And at night, he left me alone, completely alone. No midnight visits, no wandering hands, no suggestions of payment for his hospitality. It was confusing, disorienting, and somehow more terrifying than if he'd just been straightforward about what he wanted. On day 5, I finally broke down to Mrs. Chen. I don't understand what he wants from me, I said, tears streaming down my face as I helped her fold linens. Why is he being nice? What's the catch? Mrs. Chen set down the sheet. She was folding and took my hands. Her touch was gentle, warm, the first kind touch from a maternal figure I'd had in years. Mr. Russo is not like his father, she said carefully. His father was a hard man, cruel sometimes, but Dante, he learned from his father's mistakes. He believes in protecting his people, all his people, and you, Miss Elena, are his people now. But I'm not. You're a young woman who was wronged by her parents, who was given no choice, no agency, no respect. Mr. Russo sees that, and it bothers him. She squeezed my hands. He has his own code, Miss Elena, his own sense of honor, and that code says you deserve better than what you got. So this is... what? Pity? No. This is justice. His version of it anyway. I wanted to believe her, desperately, but years of being taught I wasn't worth kindness, wasn't worth consideration, made it almost impossible. On day 7, everything changed. We were in the library, Dante working at his desk, me cataloging books like he'd asked me to do. It was peaceful, almost normal. And I'd started to relax, just a little, when his phone rang. He answered in Italian, his voice clipped and professional. Then slowly his expression went dark. Cold. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Quando? He asked sharply. When? More Italian, rapid fire, his free hand clenching into a fist on the desk. Trova l'indirizzo, ora. Find the address. Now. He hung up and was on his feet in seconds. Elena, go to your room. Lock the door. Don't come out until I come get you. What's wrong? Now, Elena. I ran. I locked myself in my room, heart pounding, hands shaking, and listened to the house erupt into chaos below me. Shouting, running footsteps, doors slamming, the sound of cars starting, tires squealing, then silence. I waited, and waited, and waited. It was 4 hours before Mrs. Chen knocked on my door. "It's over," she said quietly. "You can come out." "What happened?" "Bratva. They hit one of Mr. Russo's warehouses, killed 3 of his men." Her face was grim. "He's dealing with it." "Where is he?" "You don't want to know, Miss Elena." But I did. I needed to know. Because for the first time, I was starting to understand what Dante Russo actually was. Not the man who ate breakfast with me and asked about books. Not the man who gave me choices and treated me with respect. The other man. The killer. The monster. He didn't come back until the next morning. I'd stayed up all night, unable to sleep, imagining what dealing with it meant. Imagining him covered in blood. Imagining him hurting people, killing people, doing all the things that Marco's scars suggested happened in his world. When he finally walked through the front door, I was in the foyer, waiting. He stopped when he saw me, and for a moment we just stared at each other. He looked exhausted, hollow. There was blood on his shirt. Not a lot, but enough. His knuckles were bruised and split, and his eyes. God, his eyes looked dead. "You should be asleep," he said, his voice rough. "So should you." I had work to do. Mrs. Chen told me about the warehouse, the men who died. Something flickered in his expression. "Did she tell you what I did about it?" "No." "Good. You don't need to know." He moved toward the stairs, toward his room, and I should have let him go. Should have gone back to bed and pretended I hadn't seen him like this. But I couldn't. "Dante." He stopped but didn't turn around. "Are you okay?" A laugh, bitter and broken. "No, Elena, I'm not okay. I just killed 5 men. I did things to them that will haunt me for the rest of my life. I'm covered in blood and hate and rage, and the last thing you should do is be anywhere near me right now. Let me help." "You can't." He finally turned, and the look on his face made me step back. "You can't help with this. You can't fix it. You can't make it better. This is who I am, Elena. This is what I do. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll understand why you should be terrified of me." "I am terrified of you," I said quietly. "But I'm also terrified for you." That stopped him. "What?" "You look like you're dying inside. Like every time you have to do this, it kills a little piece of you. And My voice broke. "I don't want that for you. I don't want you to hurt like this." He stared at me for a long moment. Then quietly, "Why do you care?" "I don't know. I shouldn't. But I do." He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, something had shifted. "Go to bed, Elena. Please. Before I do something we'll both regret." I went. But I lay awake in my beautiful room, listening to the sound of his shower running, and wondered when exactly I'd started caring about the man who owned me. Training started the next week. "I need you to learn to protect yourself," Dante said at breakfast, back to his usual composed self. No sign of the broken man from 2 nights ago. "The Bratva knows about you now. They'll try to use you to get to me. I won't let that happen, but you need to be prepared, just in case." "Prepared how?" "Marco will teach you hand-to-hand combat. Luca handles firearms. Sophia, one of my security team, will work with you on situational awareness." He paused. "It won't be easy, but you can do it." "What if I can't?" "Then you try harder." He stood, ready to leave for the day. "Training starts this afternoon. Wear comfortable clothes." I was terrible at it. The hand-to-hand combat with Marco was humiliating. He was patient, almost gentle for someone so intimidating, but it didn't matter. I was too slow, too heavy, too uncoordinated. Every time he came at me, even in slow motion, I froze. "You have to move, Miss Elena," he said for the 10th time that first session. I grab you, you break free. Like this. He demonstrated again. But when he grabbed me, my brain short-circuited. All I could think was, big man, grabbing me, holding me, and I was 13 again with boys shoving me into lockers, or 15 with my father yanking my arm hard enough to bruise when I embarrassed him at a restaurant, or 20 with a doctor gripping my wrist too hard while lecturing me about my weight. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just froze. Miss Elena? Marco's voice, concerned now. You okay? I nodded, but I wasn't. I wasn't okay at all. The firearms training with Luca was even worse. He handed me a Glock 19, showed me how to hold it, how to aim, how to squeeze the trigger. It seemed simple. Point and shoot. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Breathe, Luca said calmly. Just breathe and focus. I tried. I aimed at the target 20 feet away, squeezed the trigger, missed by 4 feet. Again, missed. Again, missed. Again. I threw down the gun, tears streaming down my face. I can't do this. I can't. Yes, you can. I turned to find Dante standing behind us, arms crossed, watching. How long had he been there? I'm terrible at this, I said, angry at myself, at my body, at everything. I can't hit anything. I can't defend myself. I'm useless. Stop. He moved forward, picking up the gun I'd thrown. You're not useless. You're undertrained and scared. There's a difference. He checked the weapon, then held it out to me. Again. I can't. You keep saying that. Stop saying that. Try. I took the gun with shaking hands. First problem, Dante said, moving behind me. Your stance. You're leaning back, trying to get away from the gun. Lean in. Embrace it. His hands, warm, strong, steady, adjusted my position. Plant your feet. Shoulder width. I did. Good. Now grip. You're holding it like it's going to bite you. Firm grip. Both hands. He wrapped his hands around mine, demonstrating. Feel that? That's control. I nodded, hyper-aware of his chest against my back, his breath warm on my neck. Eyes on the target. Don't look at the gun. Look at where you want the bullet to go. His voice was low, steady, grounding. Now breathe. In. Out. In. On the exhale, squeeze. I fired. Hit the target. Not center mass, but I hit it. See? His breath tickled my ear. You can do it. You just needed to believe you could. I fired again. Another hit. That's my girl, he murmured, and something in my chest cracked open at those words. The nightmares started that night. I dreamed of men grabbing me, hurting me, killing me while Dante watched and did nothing. I dreamed of my parents selling me over and over again to different buyers. I dreamed of being shot, stabbed, broken. I woke up screaming. Within seconds, my door burst open and Dante was there, gun in hand, scanning for threats. When he realized there were none, that I was just sitting in bed crying, his expression shifted from alert to concerned. Nightmare? He asked quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. He holstered his gun and sat on the edge of my bed, careful to keep distance between us. Do you want to talk about it? I dreamed they took me, the Bratva. They hurt me and you couldn't stop them and... My voice broke. I'm so scared, Dante. All the time. I'm terrified of them. Of you. Of this whole world. I can't... Come here. I looked up at him, startled. Come here, he repeated, opening his arms. An invitation, not a demand. I shouldn't have. I should have maintained distance, remembered he was my captor, protected myself. But I crawled into his arms anyway. He held me while I cried, one hand stroking my hair, the other rubbing circles on my back. He didn't tell me it would be okay, didn't lie and say I was safe. Just held me and let me break apart. I've got you, he murmured finally. I've got you, Elena. I won't let them take you. I won't let anyone hurt you. I promise. You can't promise that. Watch me. He pulled back to look at me, his eyes fierce. You want to know why I'm training you? It's not because I think I'll fail to protect you. It's because I refuse to let you be helpless. You deserve to feel powerful, Elena. You deserve to know you can fight back. You deserve... He stopped himself. What? Everything. He finished quietly. You deserve everything. And then, because I was emotional and scared and he was warm and solid and the first person who'd ever made me feel like I mattered, I kissed him. It was brief. Just a press of my lips against his. But it was enough. Enough to change everything. He froze. Then his hand came up to cut my face. And he kissed me back. Really kissed me. Deep and slow and devastating. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Elena, he said, his voice strained. We can't. Why not? Because you're vulnerable right now. Because I'm taking advantage. You're not. I kissed you. I'm still the one with all the power here. He stood up, putting distance between us. You're here because you had no choice. Anything between us would be tainted by that. What if I don't care? I care. He moved toward the door. Get some sleep. We'll pretend this didn't happen. But we both knew we couldn't. The next 2 weeks were torture. The training continued. I got better. Not great, but better. I could hit targets at 20 feet. I could break Marco's hold about half the time. I could scan a room and identify exits, threats, escape routes. But the tension between Dante and me was unbearable. He started avoiding me. No more breakfasts together. No more library time. He'd give me instructions through Mrs. Chen, disappear for days at a time, come back looking exhausted and haunted. And I realized, with a sinking feeling, that I'd ruined everything. That one kiss had destroyed the fragile peace we'd built, had made him see me as a problem instead of a person, had confirmed what I'd always believed, that I wasn't worth the trouble. I stopped eating properly. Not intentionally at first. I just wasn't hungry, was too stressed to care. But then it became something else, something darker. A way to punish myself for being stupid enough to think someone like Dante Russo could want someone like me. Mrs. Chen noticed first. You're not eating, Miss Elena, she said one morning, looking at my untouched breakfast. I'm not hungry. You haven't been hungry in 5 days. That's not normal. I'm fine. You're not fine, and Mr. Russo will be upset if... Mr. Russo doesn't care, I snapped. He can barely stand to be in the same room as me. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you saw him actually talk to me? Look at me? I pushed away from the table. I'm just a burden he's stuck with. The sooner we all accept that, the better. I left before she could respond. That night, Dante kicked down my door. Not literally, he had keys, but he entered with enough force that it might as well have been a kick. What the fuck is wrong with you? He demanded. I looked up from my bed, where I'd been reading. Excuse me? Mrs. Chen says you're not eating, that you've lost weight, that you're... He stopped, staring at me, really looking at me for the first time in 2 weeks. Jesus Christ, Elena, when did you last eat a full meal? I don't know. I'm not hungry. That's not how hunger works. He crossed to me in 3 strides, grabbed my wrist, held up my arm. You're thinner. In 2 weeks, you've lost... How much? I don't know. I haven't weighed myself. Why are you doing this? I'm not doing anything. Bullshit. You're starving yourself. Why? I yanked my arm away, standing to face him. Maybe because I'm finally trying to be what everyone wants me to be. Smaller. Less. Maybe if I just take up less space. You think I want you smaller? He looked genuinely shocked. Everyone does. My whole life, everyone's wanted me to be less. Less fat, less loud, less there. So I'm trying. I'm finally trying to be what? I don't want you smaller, you idiot. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. I want you healthy. I want you strong. I want you to take up as much space as you fucking need. Do you understand me? But you won't even look at me. Ever since I kissed you. I won't look at you because every time I do, I want to kiss you again. He exploded. Because I'm falling for you and I have no right to. Because you're here against your will and anything between us would be wrong. So yes, I've been avoiding you because it's the right thing to do. He was breathing hard, his hands still on my shoulders. But I will not let you destroy yourself because of that. I won't. I stared at him, processing his words. You're falling for me? Did you not hear the rest of what I said? You're falling for me, I repeated, something like hope blooming in my chest. You want to kiss me? Elena, I want to kiss you too. I think about it all the time. My voice dropped to a whisper. I think I'm falling for you too. You can't. You're the first person who's ever treated me like I matter. The first person who's made me feel like I'm worth something. So yes, I'm falling for you. And I don't care if it's complicated or wrong or... He kissed me. It was desperate, almost violent in its intensity. His hands in my hair, my hands clutching his shirt, both of us trying to get closer, closer, never close enough. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. This is a terrible idea, he breathed. I know. I could hurt you. My world could hurt you. I know. You should run from me as fast as you can. I know. I pulled back to look at him. But I'm not going to. Elena, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to starve myself. I'm not going to make myself small anymore. I took a shaky breath. I'm going to stay right here, with you, and figure out what this is. Okay? He looked at me for a long moment, something like wonder in his eyes. Okay, he said finally. Okay. And then he kissed me again, gentler this time, and it felt like coming home. 5. The attack. Everything changed on a Tuesday. I'd been at the Palazzo for 2 months. 2 months of falling deeper in love with a man I shouldn't love. 2 months of secret touches in hallways, stolen kisses in the library, nights where he'd hold me while I slept. We hadn't told anyone. It was too new, too precious, too fragile. But the Bratva knew. I realized later that they'd been watching, waiting, building up intelligence about who mattered to Dante Russo, who could be used against him. And I was the obvious target. We were in the city. Dante had insisted I join him for a meeting. Something about making it clear I was under his protection. I wore one of my nicest dresses, did my hair carefully, tried to look like I belonged by his side. The meeting was boring. Business talk I didn't understand. But I sat quietly, watching, learning. We were walking back to the car when Marco called. Boss, we have a situation. I watched Dante's expression go cold. The warmth, the softness he'd shown me lately, gone in an instant, replaced by the killer. Talk. The house. They breached the east gate. Multiple hostiles. Heavy weapons. Marco's voice was tight. Mrs. Chen is secure, but we have casualties. 2 guards down, 3 more injured. Dante's jaw clenched. Fall back to defensive positions. I'm coming. Boss, this is a trap. They want you to come back. They're probably... I don't care. My people are dying. Turn the car around. Dante. I grabbed his arm. Marco's right. This is what they want. I know. But I'm not leaving my people to die. He looked at me, and for a moment the mask dropped. Stay in the car when we get there. Lock the doors. If things go bad, Marco will get you out. I'm not leaving you. Elena. He cupped my face. I need to know you're safe. Please. Just this once. Do what I tell you without arguing. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could help. But the look on his face, desperate, pleading, stopped me. Okay. We arrived to find the estate looking like a war zone. The gates were blown open. Smoke rose from somewhere on the property. I could hear gunfire, rapid bursts, then silence, then more bursts. "Stay here," Dante ordered. Then he was out of the car, gun drawn, moving with Marco and Luca toward the house. I locked the doors like he'd told me. I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. 2 minutes. More gunfire. An explosion that rocked the car. I couldn't just sit here. I couldn't. I grabbed the gun Luca had left in the car. A Glock 19, the same one I'd been training with. Checked the magazine like he'd taught me. Took a breath. Then I got out of the car. I moved through the grounds the way Sophia had taught me. Low, quiet, scanning for threats. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest, but I kept moving. I heard Dante before I saw him, his voice, shouting orders in Italian. He was pinned down behind a stone wall with Marco, 3 hostiles advancing on their position, and one of them had a clear shot at Dante's back. I didn't think. I raised my gun, aimed the way Dante had taught me, and fired. The man went down. The recoil nearly knocked me over, but I'd hit him. I'd actually hit him. Dante's head whipped around, his eyes going wide when he saw me. "Elena, get down!" But I was already moving, already raising the gun again as another hostile turned toward me. I fired, missed, fired again. This time, I didn't miss. Marco took out the third one, and suddenly it was over. I stood there, gun still raised, shaking so hard my teeth chattered, staring at the bodies, the men I'd just killed, and felt my stomach heave. I made it 3 steps before I vomited. Dante was there immediately, one hand on my back, supporting me while I emptied my stomach onto the grass. I couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop seeing their faces, couldn't stop thinking, I killed them. I killed them. I killed them. "Breathe," Dante said, his voice rough. "Just breathe, Elena." "I killed them," I gasped. "I killed—" "You saved my life. You saved Marco's life. You did what you had to do. But they're dead because of me. They're dead because they came here to kill. You defended yourself and the people you care about. That's not murder. That's survival." But it didn't feel like survival. It felt like I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. Like I'd become something I swore I'd never be. I couldn't finish. Couldn't breathe. The panic attack was coming. I could feel it, and I couldn't stop it. Dante pulled me against him, holding me tight. "You're okay. You're safe. I've got you. Just breathe with me. In, out, in, out." I tried, failed, tried again. "That's it. Stay with me, Elena. Don't go away. Stay with me." His voice was my anchor. His heartbeat, steady under my ear, was my rhythm. Slowly, painfully, I came back. "There you are," he murmured when I finally stopped hyperventilating. "There's my girl." "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't stay in the car. I'm sorry I—" Don't apologize for saving my life." He pulled back to look at me, and his eyes were fierce. "You were incredible, terrifying, but incredible. But please, please don't ever do that again. I can't lose you, Elena. I can't. You won't. I promise. I swallowed hard. I love you, Dante. I know it's crazy and wrong and complicated, but I love you." His expression cracked open. "Elena, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. In case something happens and I never get to tell you. I love you too." The words came out rough, almost angry. "I've loved you for weeks. I've been trying not to, trying to keep distance, trying to be appropriate, but fuck appropriate. I love you, Elena Moretti. I'm completely, irrevocably in love with you." And then we were kissing, desperate and messy, right there in the middle of a battlefield, and it was perfect. The aftermath was brutal. 5 of Dante's people were dead. Mrs. Chen was shaken, but safe. The east wing of the house was severely damaged, and the Bratva family responsible had just declared all-out war. But worse than any of that was watching what it did to Dante. He spent 3 days coordinating responses, planning retaliation, meeting with allies. He barely slept, barely ate. The stress was eating him alive, and I could see it in his eyes. The weight of every death, every failure, every person counting on him. On the fourth night, I found him in his study at 3 a.m., surrounded by papers and weapons and maps. "Come to bed," I said from the doorway. "I can't. I need to." "You need to sleep. You're running yourself into the ground, and that won't help anyone." "Elena." "No." I walked in, around the desk, and physically took the papers from his hands. "You're done for tonight. Come with me." "I can't just—" "Yes, you can. Your people need you alive and functional, not dead on your feet. So come with me. Now." He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact second he gave in. His shoulders slumped, the tension draining out of him. "All right," he said quietly. "All right." I led him to his room. Our room now, really, though we hadn't made it official. I made him sit while I helped him out of his shirt. Made him drink water. Made him lie down while I curled up beside him. "I'm supposed to protect you," he murmured into the darkness. "Not the other way around. We protect each other. That's how this works. You could have died. When you got out of that car, when you came after me, you could have died, Elena. The thought of losing you." His voice broke. I pulled him closer, wrapping my arms around him. "But you didn't lose me. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me," he said fiercely. "Promise me you'll be careful. That you won't take unnecessary risks. That you'll let me keep you safe. Only if you promise me the same thing. Elena. Promise me, Dante. Promise me you won't throw your life away trying to protect everyone else. Promise me you'll let me help. That we're in this together." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Together," he agreed. "We're in this together." "Good. Now sleep. I've got you." And he did. Finally, his breathing evening out, his body relaxing against mine, and I lay awake in the dark, holding the man I loved, and knew that whatever came next, we'd face it together. The war with the Bratva lasted 3 months. 3 months of living in fear. 3 months of increased security. Of Dante coming home covered in blood more often than not. Of wondering if today would be the day they found a way past his defenses. But Dante was methodical. Ruthless. Strategic. He dismantled their operations piece by piece, cut off their supply lines, turned their allies against them. And when he finally cornered the Bratva leadership, he gave them a choice: leave the city forever, or die. They left. And just like that, it was over. We were in the library when he told me his plans. "I'm stepping back," he said, setting down the book he'd been pretending to read. "Not from the business entirely, but from day-to-day operations. Marco will handle most of it. I'll oversee, advise, but—" He paused. "I'm tired, Elena. I'm tired of the violence and the blood and the constant threat. I want a life that's about more than just surviving." "What kind of life do you want?" I asked quietly. He looked at me, and something in his expression made my heart skip. "One with you. A real life. Marriage. Maybe kids someday, if you want them. A life where I wake up next to you and go to sleep beside you and don't have to wonder if today's the day I lose you." I couldn't breathe. "Dante, I know it's fast. I know we've only been together a few months, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life." He stood, pulling something from his pocket. A ring. "Elena Rose Moretti, will you marry me?" The ring was beautiful, simple, elegant, clearly expensive, but what made tears stream down my face wasn't the ring. It was the look in his eyes, the love, the hope, the absolute certainty. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." He slipped the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly, like everything else he'd given me. And then he was kissing me, and I was crying, and we were both laughing. "I love you," he said against my lips. I love you so fucking much. I love you too, even though you're crazy. Crazy? You're a mafia boss who just proposed to the fat girl your enemy sold you. He pulled back, his expression going serious. First, you're not the fat girl. You're Elena. You're brilliant and brave and beautiful and mine. Second, your father sold you. I bought your freedom. He cupped my face. And third, I'd propose to you 1,000 times over. Any life, any universe, you're it for me, Elena. You're everything. And in that moment, in his arms, wearing his ring, I finally believed him. I finally believed I was worth loving. 6 months later, my parents showed up at the gate. I was in the garden when Mrs. Chen found me, her expression troubled. Miss Elena, there are people here to see you. They claim to be your parents. My stomach dropped. What do they want? They didn't say, but Mr. Russo is with them now. He asked if you wanted to see them. I should have said no. Should have told her to send them away, but I needed closure. Needed to face them one more time. I found them in Dante's study. My mother looking older, more worn. My father avoiding my eyes like always, and Dante standing behind his desk like a sentinel, his expression cold. Elena. My mother stood when she saw me reaching out. Baby, we've been so worried. Don't. I stepped away from her touch. Don't pretend you care now. Of course we care. You're our daughter. No, I was your inconvenience, your burden, the daughter you were ashamed of. I looked at my father. The one you sold to pay your debts. We didn't have a choice. He started. There's always a choice. You chose to steal. You chose to gamble with money that wasn't yours. You chose to give me to a stranger rather than face the consequences of your actions. My voice was shaking now, but I pushed forward. So what do you want? Why are you here? My parents exchanged a look. Then my father said, We need money. Of course they did. The debt? My father continued. We're still paying it back. And we're struggling. If you could just help us out. Help you out, I repeated flatly. You live in this palace. My mother's desperation was showing now. You have everything. Surely you could spare. I live here because you sold me. The words came out ice cold. I have everything because the man you gave me to treats me with more respect than you ever did. And you think I'm going to give you money? After everything? Please, my father begged. We're your parents. We raised you. You tolerated me. There's a difference. I looked at Dante. I want them gone. Elena, my mother started. Elena has made her decision. Dante cut her off, his voice sharp. You're trespassing. Leave now, or I'll have you removed. This is your fault. My father rounded on Dante, suddenly angry. You turned our daughter against us. You. I gave your daughter the respect and love you never did. Dante said calmly. I gave her safety, value, a choice in her own life, things you should have given her from birth. He moved around the desk, standing beside me. She owes you nothing. Now leave. My mother looked at me one last time, her expression full of disbelief. Like she couldn't fathom that I'd choose Dante over them. You'll regret this, she said quietly. No, I said. I won't. Goodbye, Mother. They left, escorted by Marco and 2 other guards, and when the door closed behind them, I felt like I could finally breathe. Are you okay? Dante asked, pulling me into his arms. Yes, I said, and meant it. For the first time in my life, I'm actually okay. No regrets? None. They're not my family anymore. You are. Mrs. Chen is. Marco and Luca and Sophia and everyone here who actually cares about me. I looked up at him. This is my home now. Good. He kissed my forehead. Because I'm never letting you go. The library smells like old books and fresh flowers. I'm cataloging new acquisitions, Dante's been buying first editions again when I hear little footsteps running down the hall. Mama! Mama, look! I turn just in time to catch my daughter as she barrels into me, holding up a drawing. She's 3 years old, with Dante's dark eyes and my smile, and she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. What is it, Piccola? I ask, studying her artwork. It's us, you and Papa and me. She points to 3 stick figures of varying sizes. We're a family. We are. I agree, my heart full. The best family. What's the best family? Dante asks from the doorway, and Lucia squeals, running to him. Papa! He scoops her up easily, tossing her into the air and catching her while she giggles. He's different now than he was 3 years ago. Lighter, happier, less haunted. He still runs the business, but it's more legitimate now. More strategic. Less blood. He's building a legacy instead of just surviving. How are my girls? He asks, walking over to kiss me. Good. Busy. Lucia's been helping me organize. Helping? He repeats with a smile, looking at the books his daughter has organized by color instead of subject. She tried. I defend. She did. Just like her mother. He sets Lucia down. Go find Nonna Chen. She has cookies. Cookies! Lucia tears off toward the kitchen. When she's gone, Dante pulls me close. Have I told you today that I love you? Only 3 times. You're slacking. Then let me remedy that. He kisses me, slow and sweet. I love you, Elena Russo. I love our daughter. I love this life we've built. I love everything about you. Even though I'm still fat? I ask. But there's no heat in it. No pain. Just curiosity. You're not fat. You're you. And you're perfect exactly as you are. He cups my face. I see you, Elena. All of you. And I love every single piece. I believe him. Finally, completely, I believe him. I love you too, I whisper. My beautiful, dangerous, wonderful man. Your man, he corrects. Yours. Always. Sometimes I think about that girl I was 3 years ago, the one who thought her life was over, the one who believed she was worthless. And I wish I could tell her, hold on. Just hold on a little longer. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the beginning of everything. Sometimes the man who owns you on paper becomes the man who sets you free. Sometimes the monster is actually the hero. And sometimes, just sometimes, the fat girl no one wanted becomes the queen of her own empire. Not because she changed her body, but because she finally changed her mind about what she deserved.